Greetings, M Squared here, and today we're going to talk about finding the slope, the distance, or the midpoint when you are given a segment. So in class we went over the three formulas. Remember, you must memorize your formulas, and our goal is to be able to prove things with these. So we need practice with them first. So the midpoint formula, slope formula, midpoint's down there. Slope formula, y minus y over x minus x. Distance formula, you subtract the x's, you subtract the y's, you square them both separately, then you add them together, then you take the square root. This is just Pythagorean theorem. If you were to graph it, this would be the length of one side, the length of the other side. You know, a squared plus b squared, square root equals c. Midpoint formula is a point. That's why it has parentheses. Notice, no parentheses, parentheses. Comma in between. X is on the left always, y is on the right always. So you're taking the average of two x's, average of two y's, and that's how you find the midpoint. Okay, so we're just going to use them. These are our points. I'm not going to graph them. I'm assuming you know how to graph, and students in class didn't like to graph it anyway. They wanted to do it with just the points. So finding the slope of AB. Notice AB has a segment over it. That means this is segment AB. Unlike this one, with no segment over it, that means find the distance. So when you're asked to find two capital letters right next to each other, that's always the distance between them, whereas these ones have a segment over them because I'm talking about the shape. So if I wanted to find the slope of AB, I take A and B, and I take negative 6 minus 7 over negative 2 minus negative 2. Well, subtracting a negative is always the same as adding a positive, so I change that. Negative 6 minus 7 is negative 13. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Oops, you cannot divide by 0. So what happens when you divide by 0? You get an undefined slope, or a vertical line. So if you graphed those two, if you graphed A and B, you'd get like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you go up 7, and if you connect the dots, you can see how that's a vertical line. So AB is a vertical line, so its slope is undefined. Now we're going to find the slope of BC. Okay, here's our B and our C. So we get 7 minus a negative 6 over 5 minus a negative 2. 7 minus 6 is positive 13. 5 minus a negative 2 is 7. Because remember, when you subtract a negative, it's the same thing as adding a positive. So my slope is 13/7. Okay, on to finding the distance. The distance formula is used to find the distance between 2 points, so C and D. So 5 minus 4 and 7 minus 0. I square them, and then I add them. So 5 minus 4 is 1, 7 minus 0 is 7, but when I square it, I get a 49. So I get the square root of 50, and if I do simplest radical form, I get 5, because that's 25 times 2, so the square root of 25 is 5, 5 radical 2. A and C. What I notice is that the 7s are the same, so that means I'm on that same horizontal line. I'm up 7. So you don't always have to use a distance formula if you notice that they're the same, that either the y's or the x's are the same. You just have to kind of count between these two. What's the distance between 5 and negative 2? That's 7. So I know the distance is 7, but if I wanted to do that out, I'd say negative 2 minus the negative 5, which is negative 7, and then 7 minus 7, which is 0. I'd square both of them, add them, and I get the square root of 49, which is 7. Okay, midpoint. It's all about the averages. So BC. So I'm going to add the x's, divide by 2. Then I'm going to add the y's and divide by 2. So I get 1/2 and 3/2. And make sure you put parentheses around it because it is a point. Now AB. So I'm going to say negative 2 plus negative 2 over 2. And 7 plus negative 6 over 2, and I get negative 4 over 2 and 1 over 2, and if I reduce that, I get negative 2 and 1/2 is my midpoint. Okay, so good luck with finding the midpoint, the slope, and the distance of segments. M Squared signing out.